Hello there, I'm Karim Zachary and you're watching All 24 News World News program coming to you live from the capital Algiers, and here are today's top stories. Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune says the launch of the Al-Satellite 3 satellite strengthens Algeria-China strategic ties as Algeria prepares to host Italy's Prime Minister and holds talks with Portugal on key international issues. Also in our news, floods and financial strain expose governors' failures in Morocco, fueling public anger as Rabat presses ahead with controversial normalization. Next, 8 civilians, including 5 children, are killed in an attack by Sudan's rapid support forces in Kadugli, while the army announces lifting the siege on the city. And later on, Ukraine accuses Russia of most intense energy attacks this year, with President Zelensky calling for changes to negotiation agenda and NATO questioning Moscow's commitment to peace. The details shortly. Hello again and welcome to the details. It's great to have you with us tonight. First off in our news, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune said the successful launch of the Al-Sat-3 satellite marks a new milestone in Algeria's long-standing relationship with China. In a message to the Chinese President Xi Jinping, released by the Algerian presidency, President of the Republic Abdelmadjid Tebboune praised the strong and growing ties between the two countries, saying they are now at their best, driven by shared political will and a deep-rooted partnership marked by friendship and effective cooperation.
I received with great appreciation and gratitude your message of congratulations on the successful launch of the Al-Sat-3 satellite from the Jiquan Launch Center in the People's Republic of China. I would like to express to Your Excellency my sincere thanks for the warm and noble sentiments conveyed in your message, which reflect the depth of relations between our two countries and the strong friendship and fruitful cooperation that characterize them. Like you, I'm fully confident that this achievement represents a qualitative addition to the edifice of our historic relations that are today experiencing their finest phase, thanks to the shared political will to translate the strategic partnership between our two friendly countries into reality.
President of the Republic Abdelmadjid Tebboune also reaffirmed in his message his firm commitment and determination to continue working with the Chinese president to achieve further success and gains in line with the aspirations of the two countries and their peoples.
In celebrating this achievement, I would like to reaffirm to Your Excellency our sincere commitment and firm determination to continue working together to achieve further successes, accomplishments and gains in response to the aspirations of our two friendly countries and peoples.
Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune received a phone call on Tuesday from Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, focusing on bilateral cooperation and the upcoming Euro-African Summit. According to a statement from the Algerian presidency, the talks also covered irregular migration and Meloni's planned visit to Algeria after the holy month of Ramadan, which is expected to pave the way for the creation of an Algerian-Italian Chamber of Commerce. Still with the activities of the president, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune received Portuguese Minister of State and Foreign Affairs Paulo Rangel on Tuesday, along with his accompanying delegation. A statement from the Algerian presidency said the meeting was attended by Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf, presidential advisors, and Algeria's ambassador to Portugal, highlighting the importance of diplomatic coordination between the two countries.
I would like to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude for the honor bestowed upon me by the President of the Republic. It is a great honor for us and a matter of significance for the Portuguese people and the Portuguese government as a whole. I would also like to speak about the very special relationship that exists between Algeria and Portugal and between the peoples of our two countries. I held a profound and very detailed meeting with my counterpart, the Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs, and of course it was my duty to follow this with a meeting with His Excellency, the President of the Republic, as a strong indication of the special importance attached to the Portuguese people. I would like to say that political relations between our two countries are excellent, and I would also like to mention the traditional relations in the economic sector, which still have ample room for further development.
Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf met Tuesday with his Portuguese counterpart Paulo Rangel for bilateral talks in Algiers. According to the Algerian Foreign Ministry, the discussions reviewed cooperation between the two countries, marking 50 years of diplomatic relations and 20 years since the Friendship and Cooperation Treaty. The talks also covered ways to strengthen ties ahead of the 6th high-level Algerian-Portuguese meeting, as well as regional and international issues, including Palestine, the Sahel, Western Sahara, and Euro-Mediterranean partnership prospects. In a different development, Algerian Senate President Azouz Nasri said on Tuesday that Algeria's commitment to its African ties is a firm and unwavering principle. Speaking at the inauguration of parliamentary friendship groups with African legislators, Nasri highlighted the Senate's focus on strengthening parliamentary cooperation as part of Algeria's policy under President Abdelmadjid Tebboune to unite African efforts and support the continent's development.
The National Assembly's keenness to strengthen ties of friendship with African parliaments reflect Algeria's commitment under the leadership of President Abdelmadjid Tebboune to mobilizing African efforts to achieve the renaissance of Africa and to overcome the constraint of crisis, the intensity of conflict, the humiliation of political tutelage and economic dependency, towards the horizons of sovereignty, leadership and an advanced economy within the framework of genuine continental integration, leading to empowerment, prosperity and a dignified life, just as Algeria was keen to support the liberation of the continent and stand with its freedom fighters in their struggle against colonialism, terrorism, and racial discrimination. Our path is one, our destiny is one, and Algeria is committed to its duty towards its African roots, a firm principle and a lasting pledge that will not be deviated from.
And in a different news story, Algeria's Prime Minister Saifi Gharieb has stressed the need for a clear roadmap to strengthen the role of the Algerian diaspora in national development. Speaking at the opening of a meeting of councillor heads, he called for modern and innovative approaches to better serve Algerians abroad, ensure their protection, and deepen their ties with the homeland. Gharieb also urged consular services to move beyond bureaucracy and play a stronger role in promoting investment and economic opportunities in Algeria.
Achieving tangible results with regard to the aforementioned objectives is an urgent necessity for the government in order to implement the directives of the President of the Republic through the adoption of an innovative approach and modern methods. This will allow us to optimally address the concerns of the diaspora, respond to their aspirations, strengthen their connection to the nation, and ensure their effective participation in the various national development initiatives. I'm confident that the practical outcomes culminating from your work will set a new direction for consular services, one founded on quality, effectiveness and efficiency.
Algeria's Ministry of Defense announced on Tuesday the dismantling of 2 international cross-border criminal networks. According to the ministry, national gendarmerie units in Algiers carried out 2 separate operations on Monday, seizing more than 4 million psychotropic pills, arresting 20 drug traffickers, and confiscating 10 vehicles, cash, and other equipment used in the illicit trade.
These 2 operations add to a series of actions that have successfully thwarted the smuggling and trafficking of these poisons into the country. They once again underscore the high level of professionalism, constant vigilance, and permanent readiness of all units of the People's National Army to confront all forms of organized crime. The responsibility remains on all segments of society to unite in combating this dangerous scourge and protecting the nation's resources, above all, its youth.
And in regional news, Morocco's energy ministry has cancelled a tender for a gas pipeline linking a future NATO terminal to Spanish import facilities. The move underscores growing mismanagement amid an escalating energy deficit, exposing the government's struggle to address the country's mounting power challenges. More details with Zahra Farjani now.
The much-touted mega-energy projects increasingly look like little more than hollow promises, temporary fixes that the Moroccan is using to soften the shock of losing access to the Maghreb-Europe gas pipeline. Since October 31, 2021, Morocco has been dealing with a major energy setback, losing nearly 97% of its gas-based electricity supply after gas deliveries to the Terdeddat and Ain Beni Mathar power plants were cut about 700 million cubic meters a year. The country also lost transit fees previously received in the form of gas, which had covered a significant share of domestic consumption. In an effort to fill the energy gap left by the pipeline's shutdown, the Moroccan rushed to find alternatives, relying on expensive, short-term solutions. This include importing gas from the international market via Spain at extremely high prices, a move that put heavy pressure on public finances. On the infrastructure front, authorities began promoting plans to build local regasification terminals. Energy experts, however, see these plans as largely unrealistic, pointing to the absence of a national transmission network that would connect any future terminals to industrial hubs. Added to this are attempts to promote other large-scale projects, including domestic gas exploration and massive investments in renewable energy, initiatives that require enormous funding well beyond current means. What ultimately exposed the fragility of these so-called mega-projects were the reservations raised by the Ministry of Finance, which refused to fund a proposed pipeline linking a future gas terminal at the port of Nador to a network allowing liquefied natural gas imports via Spanish terminals. Official documents cited procedural irregularities, significant financial risks, and legal uncertainty surrounding the new gas law. As a result, these mega-energy projects remain on hold, lacking both funding and clarity, revealing the Moroccan's attempt to project an optimistic future, while obscuring the reality of rising energy bills that continue to weigh heavily on Moroccan households.
In Morocco, still, floods across several Moroccan cities have worsened hardships for residents, exposing weak infrastructure and a lack of development. Locals have accused the government of mismanaging disaster budgets at the expense of citizens' lives, calling for accountability up to Prime Minister Aziza Khanouch.
Khanouch and his government, where are you? You're surely hiding in luxurious places or abroad, completely indifferent to the situation. The country is facing a serious crisis and you don't seem to care at all. The funds allocated to the victims of the floods have been embezzled by officials who have used them to build houses for themselves, buy cars and serve their own interests. Shame on you. We are your fellow citizens. You're supposed to help us. I tell all these officials, shame on you. We are your fellow citizens. You are supposed to help us. But what you are doing, nothing at all.
Morocco's Sawt al-Maghrib newspaper reports a rise in secret flights arriving from the Zionist entity. The paper says 2 planes landed at the Rashidiyah airport in the country's southeast last Thursday and Sunday, part of a covered mini-air bridge using private charter flights to bring Zionist figures into Morocco away from public scrutiny. Moving on to the Middle East now, 8 civilians, including 5 children and 3 women, were killed. That's in Sudan, where 5 children and 3 women were killed Tuesday in Kadugli in an attack by Sudan's Rapid Support Forces. According to the Sudan Doctors Network, a RSF drone struck the Shortay Health Center, injuring 11 others and causing significant damage. The group holds the RSF fully responsible and calls on the international community to pressure them to stop repeated attacks on medical facilities and protect civilians. The Sudanese army has lifted the siege of Kadugli, the strategic capital of South Kordofan, after taking control of the Dashul area. In a statement on Tuesday, the military said the 14th Infantry Division, supported by Allied Popular Forces, advanced through Dashul before moving toward El Kuwait, 20 kilometers from Kadugli, successfully breaking the Rapid Support Forces' hold on the city. Sudan's Transitional Sovereignty Council head Abdel Fattah al-Burhan announced on Tuesday that the army has lifted the siege of Kadugli months after the city fell under Rapid Support Forces control. Speaking briefly to Sudan TV in Omdurman, al-Burhan emphasized the military's commitment to reach every corner of the country to protect citizens and restore full control.
The armed forces are present everywhere, in Jenaina, Taiba, and in all other areas. The army reaches these places supported by the people and by everyone who believes that the Sudanese have a just cause and are defending their survival, their existence, and their rights.
And now in the Middle East, a 19-year-old Palestinian youth was killed on Tuesday morning by Israeli occupation forces in southern Gaza. According to sources at the Nasser Medical Complex, the young man was shot near Khan Yunis amid the ongoing violations of the ceasefire agreement in the region. Meanwhile, the United Nations has called for the removal of all restrictions imposed by the Israeli occupation of Palestinian movement through the Rafah border crossing. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric stressed on Monday that Gazans must be allowed to leave and return voluntarily and that humanitarian aid should enter without any conditions. He also condemned the ongoing Zionist violations of the ceasefire agreement.
We welcome the reopening of the Rafah crossing. As we have said before, civilians must be allowed to leave and return voluntarily and safely, as international law requires. Ultimately, essential humanitarian supplies must enter in sufficient quantities and with fewer restrictions through Rafah and all other crossings.
The reopening of the Rafah border crossing in Gaza Strip remains largely symbolic for Palestinians. Only a limited number of residents are being allowed to cross, a move that blatantly violates the ceasefire commitments endorsed by the United States. Here's Karim Mustafa now.
The reopening of the Rafah border crossing this week as part of a US-backed ceasefire plan fails to meet the expectations and hopes of all Palestinians in Gaza, as only a limited number of them were allowed to pass through. With unbearable restrictions and humiliations, many residents are accusing the Zionist entity of deliberately slowing down the process.
After the war that lasted for more than 2 years, we hope that the number of people leaving Gaza and returning to it is multiplied. We are in need because the Rafah crossing is the only outlet and lifeline for the Gaza Strip. So it is not permissible for numbers to be 5, 6, 7. This is insufficient. We need 5,000 a day, not 5 people.
The opening of the Rafah crossing is a humiliation for the Palestinian people. The situation is difficult at the crossings. This is not our ambition. We expect a better situation.
The Israeli occupation still insists on Palestinians not returning to the Gaza Strip, a scene in which it first wants to achieve the displacement plan of Palestinians, and unfortunately, there is inhuman treatment that we saw with the return of Palestinian citizens.
Amid this situation, compounded by the serious health crisis in the enclave, the World Health Organization continues to sound the alarm, emphasizing that thousands of Palestinian patients need today specialized care not available in the territory.
The process is always a lengthy process, and of course 5 patients is fantastic for the 5 patients, and every single patient who manages to get out is important given the medical situation in Gaza. But it's always important to note more than 18,500 patients in Gaza still require specialized medical care that is currently not available in the strip.
The reopening of the Rafah crossing after more than a year and a half of closure remains largely symbolic, far from practical, in flagrant violation of the US-backed ceasefire agreement. Today, with traffic deliberately limited, Palestinians in Gaza continue to face severe hardship, living amid endless insecurity, uncertainty, and humiliation.
A Palestinian youth was killed early Tuesday by Zionist forces south of Qalqaliya in the northwest of the occupied West Bank. According to Palestinian news agencies, live fire was directed at a man in his 20s near the village of Ras Tira, close to the separation wall and expanding settlements, leaving him critically wounded before he succumbed to his injuries. Elsewhere in the Middle East, Syrian security forces entered the northeastern city of Qamishli on Tuesday, a key Kurdish majority city, following an agreement that ended weeks of military escalation between the two parties. According to state news agency SANA, convoys of security vehicles and armored units moved into the city, advancing toward its outskirts. Qamishli has long served as the main stronghold of the Kurdish-led autonomous administration that controlled large areas in northern and eastern Syria. Elsewhere, U.S. media sources reported an upcoming meeting in Istanbul this Friday between President Donald Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. According to Axios, citing 2 U.S. officials, the talks aim to explore a possible new nuclear deal as both sides seek to ease tensions following U.S. threats of military actions against Iran. Meanwhile, Qatar confirmed on Tuesday that it, along with regional partners, is actively working to reduce tensions between the United States and Iran. Qatari Foreign Ministry spokesman Majid al-Ansari stressed that high-level contacts with Tehran continue, aimed at containing the escalation and promoting diplomatic solutions and bringing both sides back to the negotiating table.
As you know, contacts are ongoing at the highest levels. As you mentioned earlier, between His Highness, the Emir, and the Iranian President. There was also the visit by His Excellency, the Prime Minister, and contact between various Qatari officials and other parties to ensure de-escalation in the region. This has been taking place over the past few days, not only by Qatar, but by all regional parties.
And in another topical development, Ukraine's Energy Minister Denis Shmyhal accused Russia on Tuesday of launching major attacks on the country's power infrastructure. Shmyhal said the strikes left hundreds of Ukrainian families without heating, targeting electricity, gas, and heating networks. A private energy company, DTAG, confirmed it was the heaviest Russian assault on Ukraine's energy sector since the start of the year, hitting key generation and distribution facilities. Still with the same file, this time Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky revealed changes to his negotiating team ahead of the upcoming trilateral talks following Russia's latest attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Zelensky said in a video posted Tuesday that the strike involving a record number of ballistic missiles was deliberate, accusing Russia of exploiting a brief U.S. proposal to pause strikes as cover for its assault. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, visiting Kiev on Tuesday, said Russia's overnight attacks show it is not serious about peace. Speaking to the Ukrainian parliament, Rutte urged NATO members to step up and provide Ukraine with the additional air defense equipment it urgently needs as the country struggles to withstand continued Russian strikes.
Direct talks are now underway, and this is important progress. But Russia attacks, like those last night, do not signal seriousness about peace. Some European allies have announced that they will deploy troops to Ukraine after a deal is reached. The security guarantees are solid, and this is crucial because we know that getting to an agreement to end this terrible war will require difficult choices. Ukraine needs to know with absolute certainty that whatever sacrifices you have made, the lives you have lost, the devastation you have endured, will not be at risk of repetition.
The Russian presidency warned on Tuesday of the looming expiry of the New START treaty, which limits strategic offensive weapons between the U.S. and Russia. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said time is running out to reach a new agreement, and the world could face a far more dangerous situation within days if no deal is reached.
The Russian initiative presented by President Vladimir Putin remains relevant. They have not yet received a response from the United States. Time is running out. It is shrinking rapidly. Literally, in just a few days, the global situation will be more perilous than ever before. For the first time, Russia and the United States, the two countries with the largest nuclear arsenals, still do not have a fundamental document limiting and controlling these arsenals. We believe this is highly detrimental to global strategic security. Our proposal remains relevant until the expiration of the treaty.
And in another story, Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez held her first official meeting with U.S. envoy Laura Dogu as part of Washington's effort to restore diplomatic ties. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil called the talks highly important, covering energy, trade, and political issues. Dogu confirmed discussions on a three-step plan proposed by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio: stabilization, economic recovery, and a transitional phase.
We have done a review, of the common agenda, especially on energy issues, commercial issues, political issues, economic issues, and the installation in Venezuela of the diplomatic representation of the United States government, which will be headed by Ms. Laura Dogu, as well as the installation in Washington of our diplomatic representation that the acting president has designated our ambassador Felix Plasencia as diplomatic representative to the United States.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum denied reaching any agreement with the U.S. on potential oil supplies to Cuba. Speaking at a press conference, Sheinbaum said all diplomatic channels are being used to explore possibilities with Washington, but no deal has been finalized.
Mexico has not yet reached an agreement with the United States regarding potential oil supplies to Cuba. As for the oil the island truly needs, we are analyzing the possible consequences and using all diplomatic channels. At this time, there is no agreement on this matter.
And finally, it's time to catch up on other news stories making headlines in the News in Brief, this time with Yassine Rikti.
Air raid sirens sounded in Kiev on Tuesday, warning of potential airstrikes during NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte's visit. The city urged residents to stay indoors or seek shelter amid heightened threats of ballistic missiles attacks. Authorities emphasized vigilance as security measures were enforced while the alert remained in effect. Lawyers representing the European Parliament have confirmed that French far-right leader Marine Le Pen is directly implicated in the embezzlement case currently before the European courts. The lawyers who joined the proceedings are civil parties stated that Le Pen is clearly involved in alleged misappropriation of public funds from the institution during her years on the Finance Committee. US President Donald Trump urged Congress to swiftly pass a spending bill to end the partial government shutdown, which entered its fourth day. In a post on his Truth Social platform on Monday, Trump said he hoped Republicans and Democrats alike would support the bill, stressing that no amendments could be introduced at this stage. He warned that another prolonged, destructive and unnecessary shutdown would not be tolerated. FIFA President Gianni Infantino has said he would like to see the 4-year ban on Russia's participation in international competitions lifted. Russian clubs and national team have been suspended from FIFA and UEFA tournaments since the outbreak of the war between Russia and Ukraine in February 2022.
And with this, we reach the end of our news for tonight. To catch up on any part you missed or get the latest updates, you can always visit our social media platforms. On behalf of all 24 News team, thank you for watching and take care.